Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. It is great to see you. I am sick. Um, but the good news is I can't make you sick, right? We're far enough apart that I can't make you sick, but I am sick. So you have to forgive me today. I'm losing it a little bit. I just charged over and just had a busy morning. Everything is a little bit of a struggle. I am fine. It's just a cold. I did plenty of tests. It's just a cold. I have the cold that the kids had on Friday that kept them home from school, and then they were sick over the weekend. So it's my turn now. Good morning, everybody. My volume looks like it's up. We should be okay. I might give myself some extra volume just because I haven't got a lot of gusto. But we are going to have a fun time. That is for sure. Anita, great to see you. Oh, is it a bit dull there? It's rained in London, Ontario. Your guild is working on the gingerbread house by encompassing designs. It's three-dimensional. Oh, interesting, Anita. I'm wondering how that goes. I can't picture that. Let me see. Let me look it up real quick. Let me check. Every time I say something to Google, I'll say something, whatever. Hey Siri, hey Bixby, whoever you are. Um, can you show me the gingerbread house on encompassing designs? And it'll say something back like, yes, I've got your results right here for a meatloaf. You put 3 eggs. It's always something that is completely the opposite of what I've been asking for. Let's see. Encompassing Designs Gingerbread House. Let's see, Anita. I want to see what this looks. Oh, wait a minute. Seasonal design. Ooh, wait a minute. Maybe I can show. Could that be it? Anita, is this it? If so, that looks adorable. That looks like an entire. It's from Encompassing Designs, Seasonal Designs. Yeah, it looks like there's like a little thing underneath it. You see where the pattern pieces are? Oh, I wonder if that's what you're working on. That is super cute. Karen, great to see you. I have to, you know what? I forgot last night. I'm sorry. I've been sick for a couple of days. Ever since I logged off on Monday, two super nice ladies came to visit me at the same time, and we were going through patterns and picking stuff out. One who Becky, who's a local librarian in one of the Connecticut towns, and she said, I love it when you wonder how these things began. She said she was at the library, like shelving books and all that stuff, and she was in the craft section, and she stumbled upon some books on punch needle and rug hooking, and she thought, "Ooh, that's fun." And she Googled it like I did just now, and a bunch of my videos came up. And she said, "Oh, in Connecticut, that might work." So she came over, which was super, super fun. And meanwhile, another buddy who was visiting from Canada, who's here quite a bit visiting her daughter, came over at the same time. So the three of us were together in the studio, which was so much fun. But as soon as I finished with that and went to pick up Teddy, it was like crash, like I hit a wall and I just went to sleep. It was just awful. But pushing through it. This isn't impossible, right? I'm a big girl. I put my big girl pants on. I'm good. Kirsten, good to see you. Patreon. Huge thank you to people who support on Patreon. I really appreciate the support and the help. Information should be in the description of this video. I really appreciate it. I really do. I try to put out high content shows, high content everything. I have a lot more to tell you because there was an exciting thing that happened yesterday too, along the lines of casting our net way more broadly into the larger community, bring people to the rug cooking fold with us. That sounded like cultish, but you know what I mean. Karen, great to see you. Sunny morning in Connecticut. Ryan, great to see you in North Texas. Pam, good morning. Is it pouring rain in Wilton, California? Oh, no, but you love it. Oh, well, that's good. That's good. Hopefully you need it, right? Karen says, "Hey, Anita, I have that pattern too." Okay, interesting. This is the first time I've seen this pattern. I'm glad we're talking about it because it's obviously a thing, isn't it? I will love seeing those evolve. We uncovered a 60-year-old beautiful latch hook rug made by my great-grandmother this morning. Stop it. Stop it. Ryan, are you in the Facebook group Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club? And if not, can you send it to me so I can look at it too and I can share it on gallery night? I would love to see that. Rug hooking does go back to like the 1920s, well, no, not quite, maybe 1930s, right? Starting with those really early deco pieces. As soon as people started thinking about making rugs with pre-cuts, right? And we learned from the rear rug section that we did with bird call, right? Remember? And we're not done with that conversation by any means. But we learned about how when those sort of knotted rugs that are done with a needle, but they are knotted, from Scandinavia became popular here in the U.S., people started doing them. And then as soon as there is a trend like that, it draws the attention of commercial enterprises and companies and people who would manufacture kits to do this kind of thing. And they're always looking for a cheaper, faster way to do the same thing. And then latch hook kind of comes in. Not that it's any less or it's any different, it's just that the kits were quite different than what came before. Some of those early kits are absolutely beautiful and super desirable. And I have some latch hook rugs that are, I would say, early 1940s that I put into the book that's coming out in November. That's on pre-order on Amazon now. I put a few of those images in there. I had some images that the book just got too big too fast. And incidentally, editing-wise, I'm not sure what they're editing out of my book. I don't know myself. I didn't know that they changed the title and the cover of my book. So as soon as you hand in the writing, and my part is kind of over, and I hope for the best. So I don't even know what images are making it in, but hopefully you see some of those rugs in that book, and I'll certainly show you on Coffee Time. But those early latch hooks that I have are such a beautiful texture. They don't look synthetic. They could be synthetic, but they look more like real wool. I mean, I don't think they're 100%, but it could kind of be like, Karen, remember your, what's it called? All wool, pure wool Rio rug, and it was like Spinnerin that made that or something with the dot of glue and the 3 strands together. God, vintage supplies are so interesting, aren't they? Because they show us the timeline and the evolution of the craft. And they show us kind of like in the periphery what else was happening that made it go in this direction or this direction. It's all interesting. Beverly, great to see you. Ryan, I'm really excited about that. I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see the design. And I'm wondering if I'm going to recognize it because I have become quite up on the early latch hook designs. That's one area that I've been really studying. Thank you, Kirsten. I was running a little bit late. I got into a horrible fight with this antique drying rack, trying to get it into the car. You know, it didn't exactly win the fight, but I was very careful because it is an old thing. It definitely triggered me in a huge way. But it had to get in the car. It's just the way it is. Let's see, Karen. That is exciting. Anita. Oh, good. I'm just reading your comments to each other, and then we're going to get going. Heidi, great to see you. Good to see you. Good day from Belgium. Discovering a latch rug. That is fantastic. And in the family, a family rug at that. Don't forget thumbs up. Thank you, Anita. It is great to get the thumbs up, and all that stuff helps the channel so much. Have you noticed I've been posting those 60-second videos on YouTube? I've been trying to do that. I just yesterday I just couldn't, or maybe it was the day before. Yesterday I have one that I think is going to post any minute. It's timed, and I'm going to do another one in a few minutes about it's a 60-second dyeing one. These are not how-tos. These are just quick introductions. But these videos are bringing in about 20 new subscribers a day, which is really good because it means those people are becoming aware of rug making too, and they're learning. Not to be patronizing, but they're learning that it's a textile craft and that it can be done in a million different ways. And it doesn't have to be expensive, and you don't need a lot of training to get started. You don't need any training to get started. So I'm happy that all those people are coming in and joining us. Shannon, good to see you. That reminds me, the second Designing Like Grandma Moses class is tonight. It's not like the sequel. It's not a 2-parter. They're standalone classes. So if you want to sign up for Designing Like Grandma Moses, the second and last one is tonight. And I will run it. I will be fine. I'm going to lay down in between, I hope. And it was wonderful on Sunday, and it'll be wonderful tonight. It was a very fun class. April, good to see you. Oh, thank you, Heidi. I'll be all right. I hope I'll be all right. I don't want to jinx myself, but it's fine. It's fine. Lynn, good to see you. Cindy, good morning. Cat's Gallery, good morning. The gingerbread house you showed is it, and she's going to make a series. How cute is that? That is so cool, Anita. How fun. Stephanie, good to see you. And Jane, good to see you. Thank you for your message. Chrissy, I was just thinking about you. That is so funny. Good to see you. Good to see you. I was going to say I've got to pre-order the book, but I bet they're going to send me a bunch of copies, right? So maybe I don't need to pre-order it. Spinnerin, 100% wool from Switzerland. Karen, that was a great find. Super cool. Can't stay not feeling well. Oh, no, me too. Get well soon. Get well soon. I'm sorry. It's good to see you log on. Gayla, good to see you. I had no idea there was any history of the rug making in the family. There you go. It almost brought a tear to my eye. Well, it should, right? It's super sentimental and meaningful. It's bound to pull at your heartstrings finding something like that, because it's all coming full circle. It's part of you and it's in you. And now you know why, right? That is going to bring a tear to my eye, too. It's not going to take much right now when I'm not feeling well. I'm super crazy and emotional. Oh, thanks, April. I do too. They're fun making them. It's so hard to do something in 60 seconds. What is the name of your book? What is the name of my book? They changed the name of my book. That's why I'm not sure. It's something like Easy, Fast, Beautiful, something, Hooked Rugs. Let me see if I can see it real fast on Amazon. Go ahead and put it in the thing if you get there before me. I'm just Googling my name, which is Deanna David. It's a hard name. That's why I hardly ever use it. Let's see. Yeah, Easy, Beautiful, Handmade Rag Rugs. And it's on Amazon. The cover looks like this. At least I believe this to be the cover. It's not impossible that it changes again. These are all things that other people decide. We'll see what happens. Regardless, I'm done. I'm done. I'm on the next one. So before we get started with content today, because I want to finish our walk through those last rugs at the Wisconsin Fiber Festival. There is another weekend coming up right on the doorstep. Not quite right. It's Wednesday still. I'm taking Friday off, just so you know. I'm not running a show on Friday because this weekend, that's why the weekend feels a little bit closer to me. This weekend, I am teaching in Plymouth. I'm teaching hooking with yarn. It's this piece here. I was wondering where it was, and there it is. The Trick or Treat Tapestry, and I've been dyeing the yarn for it. That's what I was trying to get into the car this morning while it was still on the rack, right? That wasn't such a good call. But I'm teaching that on Sunday, and on Saturday, so I booked a hotel for the kids, the family, on Friday, Saturday, so that on Saturday we can go to the Renaissance Fair. I have not done that in about, I would say, almost 30 years, gone to a Renaissance Fair. I did not have the time to make myself a costume or anything like that, which is probably okay. But I thought the kids would get a big kick out of it because it's so different. I told them it's like time traveling, right? So we'll see how that goes. And then on Sunday, I'm teaching at Plymouth Harbor Knits, this class, the Hooking with Yarn, Trick or Treat Tapestry. And if you're interested in getting into that class, I know that there are spaces because that's a huge space. So I can do almost an unlimited amount of people and still work very well. But you have to actually call the store there. That's how they book. And then next weekend, I'm doing the, remember the, what did I call them? The pumpkin faces, like the Day of the Dead pumpkin faces, not skulls, but pumpkins that were all broken up. There was like 9 different designs, Days of Wine and Roses, Scarfield. Remember those from last year? And they're all colored differently. I'm doing that next weekend at Madison Wool in Madison, Connecticut. So that is something that you can register for online, the Madison one, but the Plymouth one this coming weekend, you have to actually call the shop. So I won't be with you on Friday, which means that next Friday, not the coming one, but the following one, is going to be our gallery night. And I have been getting a lot of photographs for that, so keep sending me more. We're going to conclude our conversation looking at those Wisconsin rugs, and please make sure that if you are seeing anything wonderful this weekend in terms of textiles, just fall festival crafts and inspiration, send me some photographs so I can share them on the show. Dawn Collins Art, good to see you. I'm a painter and new to this, but since discovering this channel, hooking is taking over your studio. There you go. It's like The Blob. Remember the movie The Blob? It just gets everywhere. Well, that's good because all of those great things you can use for your projects, and then you can go back to painting when you feel like it. You can do a Henry David Thoreau and just go with what you feel like in the moment, right? Isn't that the best thing, the best scenario? So yesterday, I went, even though I was super sick and I had a mask on and I was very careful. Of course, I'm always considerate, but I didn't want to miss an appointment I had at the library in Hartford, which is the capital of Connecticut if you're from somewhere else. It's not my favorite capital, but it is getting better, without a doubt. It was beautiful in the 1940s and 1950s with all those old department stores, and then it hit a real whatever, and now it's looking better. It is a lovely little city with great bones, and the library is this giant, vast library with a statue of Mark Twain out front and sculpture everywhere. So I met with them because they had been in touch a few months ago to say, can you do some kind of a presentation here? And I thought, this is exactly what we've been talking about, putting our feelers out to make ourselves just more visible, like in general, for people to be able to find us if they're interested in learning a new craft, getting involved. So I thought, let me do this. Let me do this because I'm going to put my money where my mouth is here, time-wise, and let's just do it. So I went and met this girl. She was just lovely. I don't know where she was from. She had such a strong accent. She was so beautiful. Unali Zula, I think her name was, is. She is just lovely. She was so excited about the hooked rugs. So we made a plan, and she's getting back to me with a date, but this is going to tie into our Van Gogh thing because we're making a date in January, which to me is the next sort of open spot. January is also at the Hartford Library Jazz Month. So there's like live jazz music on the weekends in the library, and there's free parking too, which is great. Beautiful, big, important building right in the center of town, and a great sort of destination. She's going to be giving me the atrium. It's going to be either the second or the third, because I'm booked for the first. So it'll be one of the other weekends, Saturdays in January, where I'll be there doing a talk on the history of rug hooking for about an hour and a demonstration. And then some people will want to take away kits that I'm going to put together, and more on that later, to practice and start working on things on their own. So it'll be a great event. And at that event, I'm going to have a huge sort of trade show board behind me with all of your Van Gogh rugs, the Van Gogh chair rugs. So now the deadline is January, right? Because it'll be either the second or third week of January. That's still lots of time. It's lots of time to jump in yet. If you would like to work on a Van Gogh piece for this show, the rugs will premiere during the talk that I'm giving on that date, right? And I'll give you the date as soon as I confirm with Anali. And after that, for at least another week, the rugs will be displayed in the library. So it'll be quite a prominent exhibit at the library, and I've been looking for a place for these Van Gogh rugs to be so that we can really celebrate the work that you have done, because I haven't done mine yet. But the ones I've gotten are absolutely beautiful, and I really wanted somewhere special where a lot of people would see them. This is it. So we've managed to roll this into a speaking event, and they're also plugging my book that's coming out in November, so that'll bring a different group of people in for the talk and for this exhibit. So your work will be on display in a huge way in January in the capital of Connecticut, in the Hartford Library, a beautiful old building. So that will be super exciting. So be thinking about that. And if you need information, I think that the link on Ribbon Candy Hooking, the free download for Van Gogh's chair as a line drawing, I drew it straight from the painting. If you want to use that as your base to do the chair, you are welcome to. If you want to do a different sort of Van Gogh piece, you are welcome to. But the theme of this exhibit this time, and I'm sure this is the first of many, will be Van Gogh. So that will be a lot of fun, and I'm excited that we finally got that nailed down and that it's something good. That it's a good place, and it's something to be proud of. And for those of you who sent rugs and who are about to send rugs, just know that we will record this whole thing, and I'll do a beautiful video looking at the exhibit and looking at all your rugs. And even if you are in another country or in a different part of the U.S. and you're not able to come to the event itself, I will make a beautiful video so you can see all of the rugs in the exhibit. You can see people looking and admiring the rugs and the expressions on their faces, and that will be so gratifying, right? So that'll be a lot of fun. Carol, good to see you. Dave, good to see you. Michelle, oh, that's okay. I was a little late too. Good to see you. So that is the news for now, and I'm putting a date out there. Maybe I can focus later today, but I am going to put a date out there because I'm going to be creating these kits for people to buy at the museum at a very low price point. Like they're going to be on burlap, right? They're going to be like rug mug size. And because it's a Van Gogh exhibit, I think I'm probably going to do a swirl with just like 2 or 3 stars, something very small and not overwhelming that comes with the pattern, a hoop, a hook, and some wool to get started, and maybe even some cut t-shirts, maybe some mixed stuff. And I'm going to figure out how that is the not even breaking even price, but I think it's important for Ribbon Candy Hooking to make the investment to get other people involved and get them going, to have the supplies to at least get started. And I know a lot of you are looking at teaching prospects for the new year. And if you want more information about this, I am going to run like a free teacher's class where we talk about how to present, how to get going, and the possibility of also getting the same kits. And I'll be putting out other designs too. But if you want to use the kits that I'm making at that kind of lowest possible price, I'll make sure that I can get them to anybody who wants to be teaching in the new year. Absolutely anybody who wants to be teaching and wants to have the supplies to do it, because I'm going to use all my wholesale connections to get stuff for as low as possible to make a nice kit for that kind of stupid money, which is very, very low for this craft. But it's worth it. It's an investment. It's an investment in the future of the craft. Whew. All right, so let's come on back to, what am I doing? I'm looking at the words and they're not making sense. Let's come back to coffee time. Well, let me show you this. What was I working on this morning? Is this my first? This is the wool. I dyed, even though I was not feeling well yesterday. I came home from the library meeting and I fell asleep for like 3 hours, and then I woke up and I dyed about 30 skeins of yarn for the class on Sunday. And yeah, crazy. Bad decisions, right? One bad decision after another. Now let's return to Wisconsin, to the Fiber Festival. And I think we left off looking at this rug. We didn't want to rush through the last rugs at this festival because they're too good. Carol, you were there. You were there, you lucky duck. You saw all this good stuff. I just, every rug in the show is worth consideration, adoration, and contemplation, and all those shuns, right? I love the rooster on the top left. It looks like that's a Proddy border. Is that a braided border? Or maybe that's a braided border. Such a pretty good folky piece, right? And the one to the right looks like 3 mason jars with these Padula type flowers in them. Such simple designs, so lovely. Hi, Doreen. The one on the bottom left really gets me because I'm loving the color changing quality of the kind of fern design in the middle and over on the right. Really stylized flowers. It looks like kind of Queen Anne's lace, just summer wildflowers. Sometimes I feel like when I'm working on designs, sometimes I feel like I have to ground everything, like flowers and plants and trees, like I have to ground them in the ground. And then I've created a horizon line, and then I feel that I need a distant horizon line, and then I feel like I need the sky. And sometimes you don't need any of that. Sometimes you just need your flowers or your trees or whatever to just be on one background with no other information, no other perspective or reference points. It's interesting to see that because I'm looking at that piece on the bottom left and thinking that is that is a very successful piece. And it doesn't have any of those things. It's just very focused on the flowers. And it is super successful in capturing the feel and the wildness of those lovely flowers. I love the movement of the blue going up and to the left. It really drags your eye, almost like something is fluttering through the air. Brandolyn, good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while. Oh, spent the sick kid home. Oh, you know, everybody's getting sick, right? Everybody's getting sick. Going back to school and mixing with all the, you know, all germs and different people and all that stuff. And I'm just glad I only have a cold, so I cannot complain. I hope your little one is doing okay, though. It is awful to not feel well. Oh, no, on the left, I'm seeing the thing we looked at last time, right, on Monday, that felt or wool bordered embroidered piece with a lot of Proddy. But the one that I'm looking at primarily right now is this stunner that has this kind of mustard and antique gold frame around it, a little bit patriotic, a little bit quilty. It is just a bit of a sampler of all my favorite things here. This is such an unexpected composition. I really like it. Now, I'm looking at this saying, how does it work? What I'm seeing is it's bracketed off on the top with a border of stars. That's very, very wool applique, isn't it? And at the border, it's bracketed off by what looks like a pinwheel quilt design, like a repeat of a pinwheel block. And then super smart and clever, a tree running right up the center that is creating kind of a spine that then breaks into 2 sides. We've got kind of a postage stamp on the right with a little primitive house in it, adorable. And then below that, a potted flower. Below that, what looks like another sort of geometric motif of three parts. And then to the left, right, that tree is acting as a room divider here, and it's giving us lots of different spaces to burrow into. This is a very, very clever way of creating a sampler. This is a very different way because when I try to put a lot of motifs into one thing, I guess I'm always thinking about boxes and Andy Warhol, and this makes a lot of sense, doing something with a tree that's a bit more organic and then creating compartments from this one side to the next. That is clever. That is really clever. The beehive, another sort of floral kind of border, the patriotic flag, and then a bluebird sitting up top with some berries. That is really sweet. And it just reminds me that you can do whatever you want. This is if somebody described this composition to me and we were playing our game where I describe something to you and you draw it, it would seem like this would not work. But this is proof right in front of us that this is working. It's a great idea. I really like this. I really like this. I haven't seen this before. And again, if you haven't seen the past episodes of us looking at this particular show, as you can see, these rugs are not marked with cards that tell us the designer or the maker. So we are not omitting that now from the content of this show. That information is just not present. I'm getting a better glimpse of that sort of mason jar composition, and it is a topsy-turvy composition, meaning 3 of the jars are right side up and the other 3 are upside down. And I love topsy-turvy rugs because I'm one of these crazy, you wouldn't think I'm OCD in any way. I'm quite OCD. I can barely do yoga because if my mat isn't lined up to the floorboards, it drives me nuts. I'm constantly readjusting my mat, stuff like that. I can't stand approaching a rug on the floor and it being upside down. It drives me crazy. So directional rugs are rugs that I typically don't collect if I intend to put them on the floor because I know it, for me in my head it's going to be a problem. That's why I love topsy-turvy rugs, because regardless of how you approach it, you are seeing the picture the way that it's meant to be seen. And I do love that because for people who have sort of the open floor plan and all those popular Property Brothers moments of housing now, if you have lots of open spaces and you have rugs down, you will often approach from different directions. And it is nice to have a nice welcome, like 3 jars of flowers pointed your way, you know, welcoming you as you walk over. Really pretty piece. And the piece underneath it is absolutely brilliant as well. That nice dark background. Let me see if I can make that one a little bit bigger for us. I'm going to drag it a little bit. Let's see what we got. Oh, that is so pretty. Oh, I do love this kind of graphic coloring. Oh, this is just my favorite kind of hooking. Nice, sort of Jacobean, right? One of the most popular styles for design, these kinds of closed flowers, fictional flowers, bell flowers, all kinds of umbrella shapes and stuff. This is all very Jacobean in its design. Really, really pretty. It is a symmetrical design, so it leans toward Pen Dutch a little bit, because if you picture this being folded in half, you've still got the same design. That gives it more of a Pen Dutch flavor. I think the colors do too, leaning a little bit toward primary colors with the greens. I can't tell if that's a green blue, maybe it's like a country green. Pro Chem does a beautiful color called country green that's right between green and blue. It's real 1980s color to me. It's one of my favorite colors that they do. And then the more sagey green, the nice sunflower yellow, the rust colors, the olive colors, those are good Pen Dutch colors. So that is bringing to mind that style of art and toll painting. Remember that? I love how the border is done in this broken color changing single strip. That really is dazzling. It's like a little border of neon lights around a Broadway sign that's saying, like, you know, what's playing? It's just exciting. It's almost flickering, right? It almost has this like lit up effect to it. It's absolutely beautiful, beautiful rug. And in so many ways understated. It really is lovely. I would have been tempted for myself at the bottom between those green leaves to squeeze in a 20-20, probably 20 on top and 20 underneath. But that's just me having to fill space always, right? That's just me being manic and nutty. But this is just a gorgeous composition. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, wow. Now, the one on the top right, I'm sure is an antique rug originally, because I know that I've seen that, and that is so pretty. You know, some of these antique rugs, and antique is maybe the wrong word, because certainly I've seen antique rugs like this, right, from the 19th century. But then we hit the 1910s, 1920s, and the Depression years. And during that time, we see a lot of the flower baskets with a blank background. And it is clever, whether you're doing a 19th century type rug and putting a basket in, which is less common, Or if you're doing more of a Depression era basket, start what comes first, the chicken or the egg, starting with the basket, and then in the background, instead of leaving it blank, as is usually shown with the early sort of Aunt Lydia style of pattern making, right around the 20s, 30s, instead of leaving it blank, you could do this very 19th century effect, which is this diagonal grid. And it really is so lovely because it enables you to bring in all the colors from that central motif and have that geometric, real steady, very solid, very decorative. And there's even that repeat, very soft scallop in brown going around the outer edge and also the interior medallion, right, the diamond cutout. Really beautiful piece. The one on the left is also a beautiful piece. Very ornate vase, very sexy looking vase. Another fold over, half and half design, right? So if you were to fold it, same thing as the last slide, it would be symmetrical. Really beautiful. It reminds me of, for some reason, that book Perfume. I forget who the writer is, a European writer, a very exotic name. Patrick Sussland or Susskind, something like that. Not so exotic. Isn't that, I think I'm thinking of the right thing. Great book. But anyway, it reminds me of a perfume vial. And it is a bit sexy, right? The shape of it. And that's probably what reminds me of that book. Because if you remember that book, it was a bit over the top at the end, but it was a wonderful book. I love, this has a very evocative quality for me. All of these kinds of white, like pale bleached leaves forming like perfect formation, right? They would never land this way in nature, but swirling out in this ornate, almost William Morris style, being filled in with both like pretty pristine flowers, flower garden flowers, but then at the bottom, these very different pale leaves. And then this big Suskind, thank you, Heidi. Yeah, I don't know why I had it in my head. I don't know where he's from, actually. I read the book when it came out, and I really, really enjoyed it. One of those haunting books that doesn't leave you. A bit diabolical, too. Definitely rated R. But what a beautiful piece. In the border, with this gold border that is shaded, does look like an actual frame. It's tricking my eye, trompe l'oeil style, isn't it? It really does give you the impression that this work is framed. It is a beautiful piece. I'm still looking at the one on the left. I can't stop. And the way that, if you look in the middle, coming out of the neck of the vase, there's kind of a wishbone shape. I really like that. I don't know if that, I'm sure it's not meant to be a wishbone, right? But we're big on wishbones in our family at holidays. We're big on breaking wishbones. It's just one of these superstitious things that is strong in our family. So I do like to see a good wishbone. It reminds me of that. It gives it another little layer of interest. I love it. I love this piece. Sorry for the gross sniffling. I'm doing my best to stay not gross, but it's tricky. Beautiful composition of sunflowers on the right. Now that is shaded in a very graphic way as well. Lovely shading, not realistic shading, because when we think about realistic shading, of course, and Dawn, you know this, I'm sure, better than I do, you're always thinking about your light source and where the light source is coming from, and then it would follow that the things that are closest to or being hit by the light source would be the lightest. Well, when you're shading with hooked rugs and anything really, you can decide whether you want to do literal sort of realism with the way you work it with the light, or if you just want to shade, what do I want to say, article to article, like leaf to leaf. So that's more like what this is. You take a leaf and you're either shading side to side, inside out, outside in. It doesn't really make any difference. It's going to create a lot of movement, a lot of depth, a very velvety looking texture, some good variety. It's going to draw your eye in. It's not the kind of shading that is that's sort of representing the sun being above it. It's standalone and it's effective. And this is something we see a lot of in rug hooking. This is a very traditional style of shading. And again, this is one of my favorite styles. This is my favorite style, this very graphic handling in rug hooking, right? Because this looks like it's a fairly narrow cut. It doesn't look like a primitive piece. So absolutely beautiful. I like the color change too. When you get to the bottom, you've got a more rust brown sunflower, a little bit more in the shade. It's a very pretty piece. Breaking the rules makes for good art. Dawn, I completely agree with that. And you feel your way, don't you? You feel your way. The main thing is, I think, confidence. Just to be confident enough to feel like if you are working on a piece and you love that piece the way that it is, then you are done, you are good, you have achieved the ultimate success. It's when you start comparing yourself to other people or thinking that your vision is supposed to be the same as other people, that's when you trip yourself up. That's when you start setting up for disaster. There's so many different styles out there. It's worth talking about all of them, and it's worth trying all of them. The one on the bottom left is real pretty too. Another realistic looking frame within a frame. Such a Victorian motif going on here. I love the geometry of the corners. It really looks like a fine painting frame. And then this sort of Victorian shadow box octagon in the center. It's a pulled octagon. It's not a perfect one, right? It's long ways dragged out a little bit. It looks like a nice classic kind of Victorian needlepoint motif in the center. It looks like another trompe-l'oeil piece to me. It really does, because if I glanced at it on the wall, I think I would think it was actually a frame with a needlepoint in it. Very clever, very clever, very clever use of shading. Really formal border on that. I would love to do a piece like this with this kind of a frame, this kind of structure and weight to the frame, and do like a kind of a Ralph Cahoon mermaidy, folky piece in the center, like a sailor's valentine, you know? I think that would be so pretty. I'd love to try something like that. And above it, a real traditional runner design, maybe a bell pull, probably a bell pull or a runner. A nice long design with a nice light background, some very traditional shading. It looks like, have you heard the expression theorem? Theorum? The kind of painting that, I know I've talked about this on past episodes, not lately. I have some examples, but probably not within reach. Oh, it's a Victorian craft where you would paint on velvet with a series of stencils. And this is one of the classes that I surprised my mom with for one of her Christmas gifts. We used to do this thing where I would get her a class somewhere, and I would choose something that I thought we would both like. And one year I picked theorem painting. And we went, and they gave us a nice piece of velvet, and we chose what kind of design we wanted to do, and then we cut our own stencils with that lightweight plastic like that you would also use for making quilting pattern pieces. And then we used our brushes, the dull, big, flat top brushes, like almost like a shaving thing but flat, and our potted, very creamy paints, and painted right onto and shaded the velvet. And we weren't making Elvis, right? We were making like fruit bowls. It's a very similar motif to what we've got here, that top left, but really pretty, and the same kind of shading, because theorem is very focused on shading from the outside in. It's a very specific look. But this really reminds me of that style of painting. It has a very traditional, really lovely, even kind of a holiday feel for me. I guess it's all the fruits, right? All the fruits, and I guess it's all fruits. Very pretty piece. And then there's that small one, not to be overlooked, the one with the gold background, last but not least, right? Beautiful graphic handling of the leaves, almost butterfly-like. Very graphic, right? Couple of flowers side by side, really lovely. Almost looks like one of those woodcuts, right? You know those woodcuts that they use like in India to do wallpaper design? They're large and they're carved, and you usually get one motif that you would then repeat. It looks like that kind of a design to me. And in fact, I'm always tempted when I see those woodcuts, right? This is just like another project. When I see one that really grabs me, I'm gonna take it, because I've seen lots. They're big, right? They're big, and I've seen lots, but they don't always quite grab me. When one grabs me, I'm gonna get it, and I'm gonna do a video of rolling with a brayer paint, probably acrylic paint or maybe ink, over it, and then stamping it onto my rug hooking piece and creating a background. It might even be cool to use that kind of thing if you have a big piece of backing fabric ready, if you were already thinking about picture frames and composition, if you were going to drop in like a circle or an oval or an octagon or a pulled octagon, whatever, rectangle, square, and block it with a piece of contact paper or just tape down very carefully, regular paper, right, with double stick tape or something. And then you were to take one of those wood blocks with your brayer, right, so it'd get good even paint, and stamp it around it. You would have a totally original pattern as the border for your hooked rug piece. That would be a great project. You could also do it with stencils. You could also do the same thing with the foam stamps from Joann's or Michael's. I think they still sell those decorator foam stamps that are meant for your wall. You could do it with any manner of thing, and it would be fun and successful for any of those things. The little one reminds you of a Spanish tile, Karen. I can see that. I can see that too, absolutely. It does have that feel. I think it's the points coming off of the flower that are so, they're kind of dancing, right? And the handling of the leaves is very, very different. It's a beautiful piece. I'm looking for where our slide is. Hang on. There we go. My brain is only partly functioning. Oh, Carol, there you are. Carol's on the right. Kaz is on the left. There you are. Surprise, Carol, there's you. Shopping a stall. Baby rickrack. It looks like there were some beautiful yarns there. I am jealous. I am jealous. Please be sending your photos if you're heading to these festivals. Please be sending them. It's so interesting. I'm so curious about what's at other places and what's at other fairs. And as we know from an earlier episode, it is possible to figure out who the seller is when we see these stalls, because I remember somebody asked and we had the answer, and it was then possible to go on their website, right, and find the thing from the festival. So you're able to do this new kind of shopping. But fun, right? Fun. This is another really pretty stall here. It looks like this is a specific exhibit. This says wool art. Sorry for the sniffles. Let me pull this in closer. Let me see. What does the sign say? Oh, it's a name. Anna Winnett, wool art. Okay, so this is the work all of one person in here. It looks like it's framed. You are famous, Carol. Oh, I love seeing pictures of you. And what I already lost it. Wait a minute. Sorry. Anna Winnett. Absolutely beautiful. I think I must have another. I must have a closer up one, because it looks like this is an amazing collection from one person. Let me see. Hang on. Okay. So I did pull in a little bit to. Wow, these are amazing. Carol, do you remember, are these hooked or are these needle felted? Some of them are giving me more of an impression of felting rather than hooking. I might be wrong. Okay, the wool art was felted. Excellent. It seems like it is, and in terms of detail, right, it's a little bit different. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but particularly the flowers with the blue pot on the bottom left, it definitely looks felted. It's super, super beautiful. So not hooked, but felted, needle felted. This is another subject we'll probably get to in great detail in a month or so, because this coming month is our dyeing and Halloween spooktacular month. She's doing lovely work here. I love the stained glass piece. I'm always attracted to stained glass pieces. Do you ever, whether you are religious or not, do you feel any of that stuff or not? Do you ever walk around churches near you just to see what kinds of art is in the windows, if they do have stained glass windows? It's well worth it. This is one of the only reasons I go into city centers, particularly around here where the city centers are so kind of abysmal, particularly in New Haven. But some of these churches are old, and they have some really stunning windows. And it is fun to peel designs that you see off of them. It's fun to have a nice walk around a nice country church too and see what you can see, because it doesn't matter if they're closed, if the door is locked, you can still look at the windows and get a feel for the designs that are there. That's like, it's such a gift, right? Carol says some were needle felted, some were wet felted. Okay, and we'll talk about that again when we get to those, when we talk more about needle felting. When you're doing the wet felting, you tend to be making that much thicker material that you more commonly use for your base, because it's quite thick, and then you use roving or dry needle felting to create an image on top of it, which becomes something like the images we were just looking at. They look like proper, serious, highbrow, high-end, fine gallery art product, right? And then you saw lovely things like this, wovens, right? I know we do hooking, and we tend to do pictorial work and geometric work and pictures, but it's wonderful to see wovens, like still textiles, and I cannot get enough of them. Oh, Heidi says, I love the light of stained glass Notre Dame, Sagrada Familia. Yep, absolutely. You know, and it's Notre Dame in Paris, right, is, and you know, when this is like such a sore subject with me, because I so hope that I would take the kids to Notre Dame in the near future. I've been there so many times and I love it so much. And then, you know, they had the terrible fire. And I was looking at the windows online from Notre Dame, and I kept hoping that one of them would really grab me, that I could do as kind of like for myself, kind of a therapeutic execution of like whipping up one of the windows to feel better about the fire, and seeing those images of looking through that building, like it was like bones, a skeleton. Um, anyway, for some reason, as though I love Notre Dame, I love the building, I love the story, love the architecture, love everything about it, but I just couldn't find one of the images of Notre Dame standalone that I wanted to do. Although like Chartres and some of the other like Loire Valley churches had images that just got me more. And of course, Chagall, the painter Chagall, did at least 3 churches stained glass windows that are phenomenal. Different periods of art too. You're getting different styles of window. Always worth looking and checking. It's just fun to check your local one, because then that it's part of your community and it's part of you too. So it would be extra special, I think, if something from your local church really resonated with you, or someplace that you've been or traveled to. Be well worth doing. Of course, you can do a composite, and I thought about that with the Notre Dame windows, because there were like parts of some that I liked. I love the rose window, of course, but I like some imagery too. So there were parts of some that I thought I could create kind of a composite and put a few of the windows together. Um, we'll see what happens. That's a big to be continued. I tend to think about hooking stained glass windows in the month of December because I'm thinking about Christmas, and I'm thinking more about church and all stained glass windows. So that's a to be continued for me. 2025, you can visit again. Oh, really, Heidi? I know it's going to be like emotional because it's not going to look the same, and things change. I understand, but that was such a tragedy. The windows, are the windows still good? God, I hope so. I mean, I hope so. Looking at that footage as it was on fire, I thought nothing is going to be good here. This is just like absolute devastation. Well, that is good information. That's not that far away either. My daughter Jocelyn is already on my case to go to Paris. She wants to eat at the Eiffel Tower. I went and told her one night there's a restaurant like halfway up the tower, you know. So she's all about eating there, which, I mean, sounds good to me. It sounds like a lot of fun. I said we can go to the Champs-Élysées and buy some perfume, and, you know, nice, right? So more stuff from the fair. This is the felted, not the felted, this is the wool roving that you could peel apart, you can hook with it, you could braid with it, right, Carol? I got my book too. We're going to look at that, the Shepherd's Rugs Braiding with Roving book. That's something we'll look at in about a week. There's lots of things you can do with this. I'm working on a project right now that I'm not ready to talk about yet because I want it to be a bit more evolved by the time you see it, but that handles roving, multicolored roving at that, which I think is so fun to play with. It's so tactile. And then lovely things like this thick yarn. This is great for hooking, for weaving, for using around your borders, for applying 3-dimensionally. You would not want to hook this kind of weight if you're using a tight backing like rug warp, poly or cotton, or monk's cloth. Even with burlap, unless it's the real primitive burlap, I'm sorry, I meant to say linen, burlap might work for this. Really depends on exactly how thick it is. I can't get a feel for it, but if it's super thick, it might not hook through anything. So you want to be thoughtful of that when you're buying something like this. But if you remember Judy Taylor's last book, it was a lot about surface, like applying textiles to the surface and sewing them on. So attaching them to the surface and hooking around, you know, the bits that you had applied. Something like this, a beautiful fiber like this, would be wonderful for that kind of application if it turned out that it was too thick to hook with, which it entirely might be. These look more like sock weight yarns or lace weight yarns, which is so beautiful, and these are very possible to punch with. I would definitely be punching in the, if it's the Amy Oxford's, the fine needle. If it's anything but the Amy Oxford's, the worsted weight needle is the thinnest shaft. I would only be working with the small needle with these kinds of materials, because if you're working in your big, what's called the regular needle with the larger shaft, it's just going to keep slipping out unless you double it up, treble it up, quadruple it up, which means cut it and, you know, fold it into multi-ply and then punch with quite a few at the same time. Same with hooking. You just turn it into a multi-ply and work with it that way. You make great progress. You get to use materials that you really, really like, that feel wonderful to touch and give you a great luster pulling up, but that could be too fine to go loop by loop, right? You could be like growing roots in the floor while you're trying to complete 1 square inch of your piece. More lovely variegated colors. They're twisted into, if you are totally new to this, these are called hanks. These kinds of skeins is a big round, like infinity circle of yarn that is tied off and twisted and knotted into itself. It's called a hank. And when you are undoing these kinds of skeins in this form, you need to put them on some kind of what's called a swift, which is either like an umbrella, or mine is an Amish swift, so it's not the umbrella thing. It lays flat on the table with 4 pegs. I find it a lot less triggering for me, a lot less pieces to play me. So you put it on some kind of a swift, and then you can roll it into a ball with your hand or get a yarn winder. And then you've got a lovely little ball or cake to work with and to be able to use for your hooking projects and your punching projects or any textile projects. Carol and Robin, famous twice in one day. Carol, look at you two lovelies. You are at a stall with lots of roving. I just bought like tons of roving again last night in anticipation for finishing the project I'm working on. Roving is just for me where it is at right now. You two are so lovely. I cannot wait to come and visit. I don't know if I want to wait until this time next year because that's really far away. Oh, and we saw these already because this is Tara Fletcher Gibbs. This is where we started when we did this, when we started the segment on the Wisconsin Fair. So that was like the week before last. So now I am falling apart a little bit. I'm wondering if we should, let's just do a brief overview of Rug Cooking Magazine, and then let's return to this on Monday because I've got the slideshow ready. I'm just picking up Rug Cooking Magazine, and you know there is a new editor of Rug Cooking Magazine. Mark is very, very nice. I wonder if he put a letter in. No picture, just Mark Allison. He seems very, very nice. I've been in touch with him, of course, because I'm writing a book for Rug Cooking Magazine. That's the book I'm currently working on. He seems super lovely. And I was just curious to see if the magazine was going in a different direction. I don't know. It's probably too early to gauge, but I absolutely love this issue, and we're going to look at it in some detail on Monday. I'll tell you some of the things that are on it. I was late opening it, as you know. But on the cover, it has this Duncan rug. This is a Pearl McGowan pattern. I have this pattern. I have not had time to do it. The Duncan rug, and this is one of the things we're going to talk about on Monday. Right at the beginning of COVID, right before COVID, I went to a meeting of, oh God, what is it called? The Southern Massachusetts, Quabbin, Quabbin, I think that's it. Guild, right? It's one of the ATHA guilds. They are in southern Massachusetts, and for me that's easy because that's like 20 minutes from my mom's house way up in northern Connecticut. So lovely group of people there. I got together with them one weekend, and I think it was early 2022. It was not March, 2020. And they put the word out, listen, we're going to do this group project where we order this Duncan rug from Cushing, right, because they have the Pearl McGowan patterns, and who wants to do it? So I said, I want to do it. And I ordered one, and it is a big floor-sized rug. It is so beautiful. It is this pattern, and the idea was everybody was going to do it in their own way, and that was my idea too, and it's still my idea, but I didn't get it done with the group because ribbon candy hooking took off in 2020, and has been going strong, as you can see. So I have not had time to do it, but it is a beautiful rug, and one of the great features of this issue. And this issue is, in case you're watching this in the future, September, October 2022. Sorry, easily distracted. Just realized I must have put the air on too cold because I am freezing in here now. But this is one of the great features, being able to see, as we will on Monday, many different people creating the same pattern in their color choices and actually changing the pattern too. So that is very interesting. Some of the other features that we're looking at on Monday, we're not going to look at all of the features because I don't want to do a total spoiler alert. I just want to kind of draw you in so that you think about subscribing to Rug Cooking Magazine, and you know if you really want to set about getting this particular issue. This is a very strong issue. In my opinion, this is the best issue in a long time, right? The last issue was excellent too. This one is even better. I really like this issue. So some of the main features are, and we might as well talk about this one now. They're giving right at the beginning the shout out call for entries for Celebration magazine, which is their collection of hooked rugs, number 33. So volume number 33. Calling all rug hookers, we invite you to enter your best hooked piece completed in 2021 or 2022 for Celebration of Hand Hooked Rugs number 33. We welcome all styles and sizes from primitive to fine shading, from traditional to contemporary, and the deadline for entries is November 30th, 2022. Entries are impartially and anonymously evaluated by a panel of 4 qualified judges from the rug hooking community. Rugs are judged on technique, color plan, and interpretation of design. Each rug is judged on a numerical scale on its own merit. That is the Swedish system, by the way. When I was judging the Big E, they were drilling that into us as judges. There is a big difference between having 10 things in front of you and judging how they are 1 to 10, or looking at each thing on its own as if you've never seen anything like this before, and saying, how good is it in terms of its technical work? How good is it in terms of its color interpretation? They're apples and oranges. So it's nice to know that Rug Hooking for Celebration magazine is also saying we judge on this basis, because it can't be apples and apples, right? Each work is different, has different strengths, has a different point, has a different everything. So interesting. I did not know that. That is a comfort to know that is the way that it's working. Each rug is judged, on its own merit, independent of all the other entries. Finalists will be featured in Celebration 33, published in August of 2023. So there's a form here. If you are somebody who is going to enter a rug, and why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't you? Out of focus. I thought that was me for a second. Whew. So that's just a heads up. It says Rug Hooking Magazine is awarding prizes for the 3 top rugs. Highest scored rug will be awarded $500, second highest $250, and third will receive $100. Online entry fee is $35. Mail-in entry fee is $45. So you can also enter online, which is actually less expensive, which is good to know. So that huge shout out is right at the beginning of the magazine. When we come back on Monday, there are a few articles in this magazine I want to look at in detail. One of them is by my friend Haley Perry at Loop by Loop in Warren, Rhode Island. I saw her this past weekend at the Rhode Island Guild meeting, the Little Rhodey Thrummers. She is someone whose work I really love following, and she's someone who I really love spending time with. So she has an article here, and it is called, hold on, Searching for My Visual Language. So we're certainly going to look at that article in detail and the images of Haley's hooked pieces on Monday. That's going to be the first thing that we do on Monday. We're going to look at the Duncan rugs together. In this issue, there's also an article on three-dimensional Halloween nesting dolls, and something called, this is something we'll look at together too, the primalistic rug. So in other words, crossing primitive style with realistic. And in the middle is that graphic style that we've been talking about on this episode, that we talk about all the time, where there is shading, but it is not correct shading, right? It is not realistic shading. It doesn't mean that it's wrong art-wise. It means that it is not done according to like the sun or the rules, right? But it doesn't mean it's incorrect. So very, very different style, and now it has been given a name, primalistic. So we'll be looking at that. There's a bunch of articles in here, but again, I'm not going to do a spoiler alert and cover all of them. One of them was very, very interesting, Dave. It was in Toronto, so Anita, you might be interested in this too. Art or Scars? Rug Hooking Inspired by Urban Graffiti by Susan Gabby Trotz. And we're going to look at that on Monday, but she's been walking around Toronto looking at the graffiti and creating hooked rugs based on it. So that is super, super interesting. That one really got me. The Haley's article and the graffiti article. I'm going to see if I can get in touch with Susan before then, because you never know, she might have more to add to it or whatever before I cover that on Monday. But just remember, I won't be with you on Friday. I hope that I can get better soon enough, because my plan is to go away with the family to the Renaissance Fair, and then I'm teaching at Plymouth Harbor Knits on Sunday. And I will be back with you on Monday, hopefully in much better form, not being quite this gross. with this to talk about and to look at. And yep, in the meantime, all the stuff on ribbon candy hooking, there for the taking. Been putting up a few new items. Look for some new videos later in the day today. I'm doing that right now. And I will see you tonight if you're logging on for the Grandma Moses class at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 to 8. It is a standalone class. You haven't missed anything if you'd like to take it and you're not signed up. It is a wonderful class thinking about, talking about art, design, not just with Grandma Moses's body of work, but two other artists who also began their painting career at a quite accelerated age. And we're folk artists in the same vein. So interesting. Thumbs up. Thank you, Kirsten. Have a great afternoon, everybody. I will see you soon. Just in time. I got to blow my nose right now. I will see you soon. Ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com.